Welcome to our first English podcast on Alpha.jobs.
Hello, hi Demetris.
Together with Themis and Nikitas, we will make our first podcast in English for Alpha.jobs. Welcome, Nikita.
Thank you. Happy to be the first one,
Hi Nikita.
It's an honor.
I'm only an assistant in this role here, just to facilitate a little bit the discussion.
No, it's not. You are not only an assistant. You are a co-host. I mean.
Thank you so much.
You're a star.
Yeah,
You're a special one.
Okay. So yes, Nikita, thank you so much for coming. I look forward to this discussion because I like and I love the brand that he's working with. But let's get to it step by step.
You're actually the person who likes it the most. Since I met you, you're like,
Yeah.
I love it, People that just understand the job we're doing and love it, it's very, very pleasant to know.
That's
It
good.
just fires you up.
Of course.
I told everyone in the office about you. Like, there's this guy.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing my own branding on the back of the scenes. Who knows? Alright.
Nikita, where are you from?
Well, I'm originally Ukrainian, but I lived in a couple of places. When I was 15, I moved to Israel, so I happen to speak Hebrew.
Ah,
Yeah, it helps me a lot here in
Yeah,
Cyprus from
course.
recent times. Yeah,
a lot of
And-
clients here. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But not only clients, the community here is very huge for Israelis and Hebrew speaking in general. And I also lived in Southeast Asia and Central America, and it all was work related. So life took me places.
Okay.
Wow.
And how did you decide to come to Cyprus?
Well, first time it was 2022. I was doing real estate in Ukraine, and I was mainly doing investment real estate. And one of the guys who I worked with, one of my clients, he was opening a development/agency company in Cyprus. And when the war started 2022, he invited me over. I came, I've seen the place. I was like, yeah, that looks good. Let's do it. So I moved here, and yeah, that's how it started.
So that was back in 2022?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2022.
But you've been in Cyprus before?
No,
If I-
never. First time I
okay.
came here, it was like a kind
Okay.
of job interview.
All right, sounds good.
So it was a love of at first at the first it was a first sight love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came, I've seen it. I'm like, yeah, that's a good place.
And Limassol also. I mean,
Yeah, well, back in the days it was Paphos. I didn't know much about
okay.
Limassol, so we worked only in Paphos. But then I started like the second year when I was when I like kind of studied Paphos enough, I went to Limassol as well. And yeah, Limassol is very different, but also very nice.
yes, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting city to live in.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
for sure.
Themis' hometown.
Yeah. This is how I also know Nikita. So from my end, I mean, we know now that you've traveled a lot for work, but what do you do? Tell us a little bit. First of all, I would like to see how you ended up to what you do now, and what are your plans for next couple of years, let's say.
Oh, that's a good question. It's going to be long though.
Let's do it.
So if we're taking it from the very beginning, I started my first real estate position. Now I'm head of sales for Square One, which is real estate developer in Limassol. And the journey there was quite long. So I started as a business assistant to CEO of one real estate agency in Kiev. I knew nothing. It was my first actual job. I've been a cook before. I had my small business before, but job in the corporate sense of it
Yeah.
was my first place. I did quite well. So within half a year, I've been promoted. I've been doing sales in Kiev and rentals. So we had exclusive contracts with embassies, with big companies. So it's kind of set up for me, the corporate thinking of how actually businesses think and not just individuals and people. And everything was going well. I started doing more of investment side of the things because apparently there were not many people in Ukraine in real estate who spoke Hebrew. And there were a lot of people from Israel looking to invest in Ukraine. It was 2021, 2020, 2021. And so I happened to have this luck to be one of the only who speaks Hebrew, so I had a lot of clients. And so I started doing those investment properties. We did very good ROIs, even compared to Limassol back in the days in Kyiv. It was crazy. You could do 12, 15, 17% from rentals. Yeah, a year. It was insane. And back in the days, I didn't understand how insane it is. I was just, people would come to our office and oh, if it's less than 12%, I don't want it. And it made sense to me because I didn't know there's something different. Meanwhile, Europe was doing like 4.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I didn't know that. So for me, like 12 was just, a number we start with. And then we go higher. But anyway, so when the war started, I was still in Ukraine. And as I told before, there was one of my clients who invited me to work in Cyprus. So I came to Cyprus. I was a business development manager for a small development company. Later on, it switched to be a quite big agency. Actually, I think they're one of the biggest in Paphos now.
Okay.
So we started that thing. And during the time I was here, I got an offer from a company in Southeast Asia. It's a company that it's a quite big holding. They were building hotels in Bali. And at the time, it was 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think it was 2024. They were starting a project in Phuket, in Thailand. And they needed someone to like take over sales and marketing in general, like building a team in Thailand and continuing the business in Indonesia and Bali. So they were like, we talked, they thought I'm suitable for this. So I became a director of sales there. And that's basically almost 2 years I spent there between Phuket and Bali. Basically, I was just back and forth all the time. It was quite exciting, a good experience. We did quite good sales in this Phuket project. And so, long story short, when we were finishing the Phuket project and we understood that in Bali, probably we're not going to build more because the market changed very much. For those who know about Bali real estate market, back in the days, like if you take 2021, 2022, the returns were extreme. Like you could get like 25%, 22% yearly, like just crazy. And today it's like 10. And there it's not a full ownership, it's leasehold. So generally the market became less interesting. So they thought about expanding and they bought one property in Costa Rica in Central America.
Ooh.
And they were like, Nick, do you want to go there and basically just manage the whole thing? I'm like, sounds interesting, I haven't been to Costa Rica yet. It's a new opportunity. It's something I don't know anything about, like how to start development company from scratch. And so that's what we did. In Costa Rica, it was very hard. It's almost impossible. It's actually impossible to get there for the specific plot that we got. It's impossible to get their permits for building. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I have to do something. I didn't want to stay in Costa Rica, obviously, because it's like it's too far. I know Costa Rica by that point, but I don't want to be involved there in business because the way it works there is very unfamiliar to me. It's not like in Europe you have clear guidelines. You guys do business, you know how it is. Like it's very straightforward. You have a product, you deliver value, you have clients. It's easy to file your tax reports. Everything is easy. There, it's not like that. Like government is very slow and inefficient.
Okay, corrupted maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
So it's hard. And I decided it's time for a change. And Square One, I knew them from the times I was working here in Cyprus. I was an agent, I was selling their properties as well. And when I first met them, they had like 2 or 3 projects. It was basically like 3 people, which is Nikita Papadopoulos, Demetris and Themis. You met them in our offices. And they were just running a couple projects. They are those young guys with quite an experience from investment banking in London. One of them was architect. So it was a very vibrant company, but it was just a small company. And I've seen them like, okay, it's a cute company. I will follow them, see their product, but it's not more than that. And then they started growing. They invited me to work. And it was at the same point where I got job offer from Asia and from them. And I was like, nah, I'll go to Asia. It's much more interesting. It sounds more exciting.
Yeah.
And so by the time I was in Asia, they actually like quadrupled their business. Spoke to them first time November this year before I joined the Square One, like second time you can tell. And I've seen how they grew and I'm like, wow, that's actually impressive. From like 3 projects or 2 projects that they had back in the days, today it's like 40. Well, when I joined it was 36 or 37. I was like, that's a good pace. Like, what's the secret? And then we talked. I understood that I like the way they think, and that's how I ended up there.
All right. So, first of all, I have a little bit irrelevant question to what I am going to ask next. how is Bali? Is it as dreamy and vibrant and nice to go visit as I see on TikTok, or is it the other side of?
This is the other side.
Okay.
Well, you know, it's what you see there, what do you want to see?
Okay.
So
I
if
see.
you come there, you know, as a tourist for a week, you rent out a nice hotel, you go to touristic places, so that will give you this vibe of what you see in TikTok, and you will actually enjoy it. But if you want to stay there a little bit longer and visit
That's
like
a different
some,
story.
yeah, it's a different
Okay,
story.
okay.
It's still cool, but it's, you know, it's I would say it's 1 to 2 times in a lifetime experience.
Okay.
Okay, because we were thinking to go to work online
No,
remotely.
no.
From
Guys,
there.
you were thinking to go. I never thought about
Okay.
it.
You are the Dubai guy.
I'm the Athens, Dubai
Athens,
style.
Dubai, yes.
Yeah.
So it's not for a long-term stay, let's say.
No,
Yeah.
it's, you know, I always compare it to summer camp for adults.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
It's like you
okay.
come there, it's super cool, you know, the food is great, it's cheap to be there, it's very nice, but at some point you're like, okay, like, enough is enough, you know.
okay.
Okay.
And the time difference kills.
All right. So I would like to ask
Yes.
first, because I personally, as mentioned earlier, love Square One as a brand, and I want to know more about it. So you said that you are keeping an eye on them, and suddenly they started growing in a very healthy and let's say pace. What do you think they did wrong? Sorry, not wrong. Well, actually, what did they not do wrong, and what do they did right to get to that place where it is now?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think the answer to that will be they are just from the very beginning, they came from completely different perspective of how real estate development should work.
Mhm.
Because if you, even from the experience from other countries, I understand that real estate developer always thinks like, okay, we have to buy land, we have to secure this much profit, and then we're gonna either fund it through the banks, either we're gonna put our own money if we have some, either we will start with investors' money and see what happens, you know.
Yeah.
And then the margins that they're keeping are quite high, not very high, but it depends. In Cyprus, I think the average would be around 30% for just average real estate developer. I think around 30%, it's the margin they want to keep. And Square One came with different kind of methodology and kind of vision for the business. So they told, okay, we want to build properties for investors because generally, if you take the bigger data and bigger numbers, Limassol and general Cyprus, but especially Limassol as a financial capital, is very structurally undersupplied market. So we have a big shortage of housing in Limassol.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they were like, okay, there is no method from the government to kind of kick off the development of the city and give the people the housing. So we can take this small part of the niche, build fast, deliver fast, and kind of get our market share. And so instead of having that big margin being slow, they actually decided to build for investors. And when you build for investors, you think about, okay, I want to do smaller profit. So for Square One works on much less margin than other developers. Therefore, we have a higher appreciation of the asset for investor. It's very easy to sell to investor because when the company kicked off, investors were coming and the prices were 20-30% cheaper than the competition. It's the same today.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The guy who comes in, there's a project A and project B in the same place. One is 200K, another is 270. It's an easy decision.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the quality is whoever tells whatever on the market of Cyprus today, if you take top, 15 or 10 developers of Cyprus, they would have all of them the same quality.
Yeah.
Here and there, the finishes might be different, slightly more expensive, slightly cheaper. But on general, construction-wise, because you want to be, everyone is now class energy
A.
efficiency A,
Yeah.
so everyone is plus minus the same. It's a matter of for how much you're paying for it as a developer, how fast you're in execution, and do you have the funding.
Yeah.
So what Square One did differently is actually just having lower margins and being very, very efficient and
Yeah.
very fast. Because they started from building very small projects up to 20, 15 apartments. So the execution was fast, the price was good, and the market is undersupplied. what can go wrong, you know?
Yeah. So you give people very fast something they really need yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, it sounds very simple. On an execution side, it's not simple.
I can imagine.
But generally, the idea is very, very, very simple.
So I've been to their offices, and I have to say that I told you many times already, the 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 logic behind their business model, I find it very intelligent. First of all, is okay. Apparently, I don't have too much experience with developers to say this as an expert, but what I've seen is that they are very data-driven company. So they work with numbers, they speak with numbers, they present numbers. You understand that sometimes the higher margins doesn't necessarily mean higher earning. If you put time, if you put all these logistics behind it, maybe at the end of the day, you are delaying production or you're delaying delivery. So overall, I've seen that you are very, and if I know correctly, you have a data team specifically doing all this kind of research. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
So
We
yeah,
have our
it's
analysts, yes, which are doing the job.
yes. So it's a company that they can tell you how much you are paying, what you are paying for, why you are paying this much, where you will estimate it to go, unless we have a World War III, and they're actually back it up with data. It's not, this area is it's
very
the
nice.
best area, it's very nice.
There's a
and
park, you know, and
Yeah,
the street
yeah,
is
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So for me, that was the first thing that caught my attention. Second of all, I'm also, because of my nature in business, is I love your brand. It's very clean overall, and the brand I mean from the building itself, how they present their projects, the presentations, also the support. So how fast you guys reply, it's amazing. So I had a lot of, let's say, traction with them the past few days, and I'm very satisfied, and I'm happy that we have you here to learn more about.
So did you are you renting an apartment? Did you buy a house? Did you
Let's say
did you
that
invest? What did you do?
let's say that I am sort of a client
Okay,
to
okay,
them. The rest is we keep it under the table for now.
okay.
So yes, I speak from experience about.
Okay. To understand from which experience this
Yes,
is why
yes.
I'm asking.
Yeah. So now you are talking about the shortage of supply.
Yes.
What does this mean for Square One? What does it mean for the next year? I'm not even going to say 2 years. And what are you planning to expand to other cities as well? And I think you have in Paphos
Yeah, we do have
projects.
investors.
So yeah, what's the landscape, let's say, for projects in, I don't know, Larnaca or Nicosia, or is it far from your business model at the moment?
Yes, well, because as you told, we're very data driven.
Yeah.
So when it comes to building projects, we're looking where the investor can actually benefit, because
Yeah.
in the end of the day, we build for investors.
Yeah.
And for today, we see that Larnaca and Nicosia are not the cities we want to focus on, just because the yields are lower. So we have very limited, although we're now growing in a big company, we have very limited capacity on how many projects we can build.
Yeah.
So we don't want to spread to Larnaca and Nicosia to have lower ROIs or lower yields, and maybe capture more market, just because it's going to be very heavy on operations. So we're focusing on Limassol. We are going to launch a couple projects in Paphos in the nearest future, but Paphos is more of a lifestyle product.
Yeah.
The returns in Limassol are still higher. But there are some things about Paphos which attract, for example, most of the European markets, Poland, Germany, UK. Well, UK is not technically Europe anymore, but
Yeah.
they are all more interested in Paphos in the end of the day, because of the lifestyle. Because Limassol
Yeah.
is this big city, it's
Yeah.
financial. You know, people who do business, they want to be in Limassol. People who do leisure or who want to be in Cyprus just because it's a nice place, they want to be in Paphos.
Yeah.
So it's a bit a different market for us.
Yeah.
But in terms of shortage, what you told is actually a very big problem in Cyprus today, that especially for local people who It's very hard to find rent. I'm now looking for rent, and it's crazy. Like, it's just insane. And that's because there is no certain structure from the government on how do we fix the shortage of housing, because there is a shortage of housing. There's a lot of old housing which needs to be replaced or remodeled, and there are people who want to live in Limassol and they cannot do so because there is no housing. And because the government doesn't really address that issue in some sort of reforms or something. For example, actually they do now. From this year there's a fast track program of permits, which is
I found out recently, and I was very happy to hear it.
Which is like for Square One, that when they announced it, it was like a birthday, you know, it's better than a birthday party. So basically now, if you build a project, which is, you have a plot, not a land, not a field, a plot, parcellated plot, and your project is up to 20 apartments, you, under law, getting the permits within 40 working days, which is extremely fast.
Can we step a little bit back to what it was before, what it meant also for the buyer and for a development company?
Yeah,
because it was a big problem that has been solved. So it's good to elaborate it a little bit.
It's not solved until then because it's only for small projects, but still it's a very good beginning.
Yeah. So can you explain how it was before, or what it meant?
Before, you would basically just apply for permits and pray. That's
it.
That's the way it goes, you know. You can have an amazing land in an amazing place. You can develop an amazing project, put all the paperwork in, do it very professionally, and then for a year or a year and a half, you're just waiting there for someone to review it, to start building. And so what it meant for investors, which was like a bottleneck of the market, that investor who would come and there is no planning permit, he would get a very good price, but he couldn't be sure about how long he will wait.
Yeah.
We were lucky, and we didn't delay projects that much. So we delivered very fast, and we got the permits quite fast. But on the other hand, there are projects in Limassol which were pretty much delayed for a year or even more because just they didn't get permit on time, and it's not on the developer's side.
I know.
It's just the governmental side.
Yeah.
And so now this problem is kind of gone away in some part because there are not many plots in Limassol which are eligible for this program, which are easy to build, but still there are some. So yeah, at least with the small projects we're fine now. And it actually allowed us to kick off very hard. This year we started off extremely well.
That's good. And so basically, I want to go back a little bit to the shortage of housing and how this also led to all these crazy rental prices that we see in Limassol, because it's funny how you see somebody renting out his flat and asking for 2.5, and everybody from other cities are laughing and like, what do you think you are in Paris, in London? Like, well, it's not that we are crazy, but I can't rent it out that much because simply there is no flats in Limassol.
Yes, you're
so
right.
if you have if you are an owner of a flat and you know you can sell it for 2.5, why would you rent it out for 1K?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So the problem is not that people in Limassol are going crazy. It's a bigger problem, as mentioned earlier, and I don't see it being resolved soon. But yeah, I mean, how do you think this kind of, is it really a bubble? Is it going to be stabilized a little bit? Would you expect, I know now with the situations, things are a little bit in the air, but in a year's time, do you think this kind of crazy rate of rental increase will keep going up?
I don't think it will be that crazy because, again, I cannot see the future. No?
Yeah, of course.
But in the end of the day, you can take the example of other countries and other cities and how it goes. Basically, you have the exponential growth when you have a shortage of housing, when a lot of people coming. So to take a little bit of step back, what happened in 2022 was basically you had the Ukraine-Russia war, which led to a lot of companies to look where do they move to. Yeah. And from the list of countries where you could move to with favorable taxes, good geographical location, some good lifestyle, Cyprus was for many number one. So you have now like 70,000 people who moved to Cyprus in 2022 to 2023 alone, and which for a population of Cyprus means an increase of like 7 to 8%. Now, not only that, they are very highly paid individuals, because to get visa in Cyprus, working visa in Cyprus, I don't know if you know, but you have to have a salary of at least 2,500 a month, at least, and no one gets 2,500 a month. Usually it's much more. So speaking about rents, if you take the other cities which went through the same path in the past, basically the prices grow, the rents grow. At some point, when the rents reach the price where it's unaffordable anymore, not for foreigners, not for locals, not for rich people, not for less rich people, it makes the rent stop. Because at some point, just for example, if you price now the apartment in Limassol for 3.5, it probably will not get rented. So I don't think there's a lot of room to grow for long-term rentals, but there's a lot of room to grow in terms of price, because the yield in Limassol is still very high. For example, in Square One, we're selling 2-bed apartments for around 300K. Okay, so if you to rent it out in its central location of Limassol, you can get 22 to 2,500 euros a month, which means your yield is like 8.5%. It's crazy. And if you take any other city or any other country in European Union, the yield will be around 3 to 4 to 4.5%. So what is going to happen is the rents are going to maybe climb up a little bit further. The new stuff will replace the old stuff, because now you can see the apartments in 20-year-old buildings which have been slightly renovated for almost the same price as the new apartments, just because, and they rent out just because there's nothing on the market, and people need to live somewhere. So I think this will stop. I think the old will be underpriced, and I mean it will become cheaper, and the new stuff will keep the prices of today, maybe slightly more. But the price itself will grow, because what happens next is the private equity and institutional capital comes to the country, no matter how big or small it is. Cyprus, for example, is a small country with a relatively small real estate market, because again, the country itself is small. But still, it's a very big chunk, it's a good volume, and in the end of the day, the private equity who will come with the big money, they would start buying out the companies who hold real estate. For example, if you have 10, 12, 15 apartments which are rented out and cash flow producing, and your yield now is 7%, the private equity will buy this portfolio with a yield of 7 to 8%, and then with the years it will resell it with a yield of 4 or 5, and basically make their margin. They would also get financing for that purchase, so their return on investment is very high. And that's what happened in every other country, every other city where there was growth. So that's what's next, I think.
You mentioned how, let's say, a slightly renovated flat goes pretty much the same price as a new flat. And I actually saw that in real life. A friend was looking, let's say, for a flat in Limassol, central Limassol, fully renovated flat, X amount of rent, it was on the very high end, like 2.3, something like that, 2-bedroom. It was a big apartment. And then we go there, the building was so old that some of the balconies were actually already fell off. So it was, I found it like, who guarantees that the rest of the building will not fall just because you renovated the inside? I mean, the flat was lovely, but the building was so old. It was actually, I couldn't understand why would I want to live in a building where literally balconies are falling off. But as you said, there's no flats in Central Limassol, so it was rented out. Not from my friend, but it was, after a week.
The shortage in the Limassol property market, especially in the central parts, because if you go like Ipsonas area, there like you can find stuff. It's still expensive, by the way.
It's almost the same price in in the center.
It's cheaper, but it's not much.
Maybe 100 euros more. I don't know.
200, 300.
Okay.
But still, it doesn't make sense, right? You go to Ipsonas or you go like to Limassol.
Of course,
it's because there's shortage.
Yeah.
At some point, there are being big projects in Limassol built, and they would basically take this demand on them, which for people who go to Ipsonas, they won't go to Ipsonas. They will go to like somewhere closer to a new project.
Yeah.
But still, the central parts of Limassol, they will hold their value just because there's no land. There's nowhere else to build.
And if this happens, you think in these surrounding areas, the rent will be reduced just because people will not have to go further and pay the same money for central location.
It will probably depend on demography because now you had a lot of people who came here and there's a lot of demand inside the city. Like there are people living in old apartments who ready to pay maybe even slightly more, but they want to get something better. So this will hold for another couple years for sure. And then it's a question if people will still be coming to Limassol. If they will, then the rents won't fall even around Limassol because the demand will be there. It's basic demand and supply.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't see people stop coming to Cyprus and Limassol in general because, again, the taxes are one of the best in the world right now. And if you hear what's happening in Europe, that some countries force you to pay taxes on unrealized profits on your assets or whatever.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like it becomes harder and harder to find a place to live. So on this case, what numbers say and analytics say and what I feel, I don't think people will stop coming here. But if they do, then yes, it will drive the price of surrounding areas to lower.
What do you think about this war now with Iran? Will affect people coming here in Cyprus and invest or work?
I don't think so. I mean, it depends, I don't know how the war will play out.
I feel if the missile doesn't fall on the island, I don't think we'll have any issues. And actually, I actually believe that the attacks towards UAE might also have some benefit towards Cyprus again as a tax haven.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah,
I think. Yes.
I think.
Because that's the thing, actually, I wanted also to talk about UAE and Dubai especially because, I think there are like 120,000 millionaires who moved to Dubai, and basically the idea behind that was taxes and safety. Because the safety is like Dubai was promoting, and it was like their main thing is we're the safest city in the world. And now it's being questioned.
Yes.
And like everyone is now, oh, what's going to happen to property market? Oh, no one knows. It will depend on how people will react to this, and either they're going to say, you know what, I don't believe that this is the safest place anymore, or they will say, okay, this is one thing.
Yeah.
And on this, everything will depend. But we will not know until we know.
Exactly. I want to discuss a very, let's say, specific trend in development. It's, let's say, the hotel style of projects, where it's bigger projects. They have their private gyms, facilities, 24/7 concierge, or at least security. What do you have to say about this? Is it really a trend, or is it just missing random projects as one-off?
No, this is a trend because if you look at, again, the whole world, Cyprus is a little bit behind, with all due respect. There are like hotel serviced apartments, which are like a hotel, and there are co-livings, which are somewhere on the surface quite similar things. So people tend, especially younger people, tend to want this. They want to have this service, like everything sorted out for them, so they can focus on stuff they really need to focus on. And this is a good trend, and it will come to Cyprus. We are developing now, I don't know if you've seen in LinkedIn
I
and
did
Instagram. Oh, okay.
I mean, we actually discussed about something about the project. So yeah, it's...
No, we have a new one. SL, the old SL.
I've seen that as well. Of course, I've seen it.
The only problem with these type of projects, they have to be big because you cannot do serviced apartments on a small scale project because the price for the square meters which you spend on the amenities and everything is too high. Plus the maintenance is too high. You have to have people working there, so it's very high cost if you do not enough apartments. And therefore, the permitting process can take years. So, for example, for our SL project, which is like on an XRTC estate, it's super prime Limassol. It's like there is no more prime Limassol than that. It's going to take us, we don't know how long to get the permit. So, that's the only issue. That it will come, the question is when.
No.
It's an XRTC street.
Yes.
Near H&M, which is...
It's actually on top of H&M.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Nikita said, there's no more... It's the center of the center. and they are building a project there.
Okay.
Oh, we're not yet building. Yeah, we just.
They are planning.
Yeah.
I mean, you publicly, let's say, announced that this project is coming.
Yes.
This is what I've seen also on LinkedIn, and it's this kind of approach. So, tell us a little bit more of what does this, let's say, kind of projects include.
Yeah. Well, first thing to understand is that these projects is probably, this specific one is probably going to be more of like touristic short-term rental rather than like permanent living stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little bit different. But usually you want to create a spaces where people have all of their everyday stuff sorted. They don't need to go out to the gym somewhere else. They have gym on site. The pool, any amenity that you can think of, concierge service, like someone to take your deliveries, someone to call you a cab, I don't know, someone to schedule, to take your pet somewhere if you're living. So this is type of upscale, more luxury living that people are striving to have now.
Yeah.
And we are trying to create product that will answer this demand.
Yeah.
It's very hard because on one hand, it's getting expensive and people are like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to pay for it. On the other hand, there is no such thing in Cyprus so far
Yeah.
on a good level. So you have to test it. From the investor side, because we are always focused on investors, it actually doesn't matter, because if people don't live there permanently and they're not ready to pay the premium for rent in those spaces, then you can just rent it out short term as a hotel and you still make your profits and the ROIs are great. So pretty much from an investment standpoint, it's quite secure.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of the idea, you're never gonna know. In other countries,
Will be tested,
it works, and people want to pay premium. I've been to Warsaw to such places.
Yeah.
I've been to Dubai to such places, and it actually works, and people pay massive premium.
I mean, we had this in London back in 2009,
Yes.
and it's 2026, and it's we're still-
What range will be? I mean, for an apartment, for one bedroom apartment. I mean, how will cost more? I mean,
Depends how market will price it. Well, we estimate that one bed will go for around 2,200,
okay,
and two bed around 3,200.
okay.
But imagine that you have everything within the same.
You don't have to pay the
but
gym.
we're
you
also
don't- yeah.
we're also talking about super prime Limassol, like
Yeah.
center of the
Yeah.
center.
Yeah, of
For
course.
example, we have another project which we're building with the same type of amenities. Not building yet, we're planning in Verengaria, if you remember.
Yeah. of
So
course.
it's up in Kato Polemidia.
Yeah.
And there we're going to have 152 apartments. And it's going to be much cheaper than Central Limassol because the land there is just
Yeah.
much cheaper, and it's still the same amenities. So there, the rent will be the same as in Central Limassol, but you have all the amenities.
Yes.
And that's where the question to the end user comes, okay, do I want to pay to be in the center and not have an amenities, or I want to be out of the center but have everything on site?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the question comes, and the price is the same, because you basically there you pay more for rent, for land, and
For
here you
location.
pay more for the amenities,
Yeah.
and that's the question. So these type of projects are very interesting.
Of course, they're very interesting. Yes, maybe you don't want to live anymore to the center, and you want to be, I mean, outside of Limassol. I mean, it will be a good option.
But overall the concept of, I don't know, living in a building that you just take the elevator and go to the gym, or you have a meeting, you can book. I think some of them have conference rooms. You book a conference room. It's definitely a lifestyle for busy people.
Yes, if you're trying to build something
Yeah.
and you are very focused, I mean, that kind of project helps a lot.
For sure, for sure. But again, today, when we're speaking again about Limassol, say why no one did this? Well, because to do this, you have to spend a lot of time, and the market is so undersupplied that you rather do something faster,
Yeah.
and just because the demand is so crazy, you need to do it fast. Now we're kind of switching to let's do something bigger, let's spend more time. We still have our small projects going on, but we're launching here and there like very big projects that will be our flagship projects.
Okay.
But we continue doing small ones because just demand is high. But if you take other developers on the market, they're thinking, okay, we can take this big land, we can develop this big project. These are very big risks because either you finance it through the bank, either you finance it through investors, and when it's a big project, it's harder to build, it's harder to finance it, so there's more risk involved. Plus, I can still sell my small project, do the same profit, and I just do 5 projects instead of 1, so why do that, you know?
Yeah.
So that goes a little bit beyond, like, the vision is that, first of all, we have the financial background to do it. We now work with big investment funds who are supporting us financially, and they believe in Cypriot market, and that's what allows us to go to these big projects and be secure and be sure that we can finish them. And second, just ideologically, we think that this is a good idea. This is a good product, and people need it, and people will love it.
How different it is, because earlier you mentioned 2 kinds of this development. How different it is for what few of the hotels we have in Limassol are doing with the hotel suites that are apartment-based, basically, like Park Lane. You know, Park Lane has built this tower which is for residential purposes.
Yeah, the difference is...
It's the same concept, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes, but hotels still have different kind of service.
Yeah.
So when you have a hotel, a proper hotel, it means you have a cleaning, it means you have a reception always respond. It's not like concierge, it's in a proper reception. It's much more amenities, like hotel still has more amenities, it's more...
and a lot more expensive, of
and
course.
It's a lot more expensive, yeah. So I'll give you an example from 10, no, not 10, it's like 6 years ago. In Kiev, we had complexes within Kiev. One of the biggest like projects and most expensive projects in Kiev, it was like this. They had the pool, they had the barbecue area, they had a nice lobby and everything. And the rent there for 1 bed was like 1,500. And then there was Hilton, plus minus the same location. Hilton was slightly better location, but the rent there for 1 bed was like 4K.
Oh, yeah.
So the difference is astronomical. Although even the apartment itself in the project of the developer could be nicer, just because it's Hilton, you pay the premium, and it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't compare those 2 things. These are completely different things.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I mentioned this because, I mean, the proof of concept, at least to one extent, it's there. So from what I know, Park Lane is everything is full, and they're actually building a second residential tower within the hotel. So there is a demand for this kind of luxury, or let's say kind of all-inclusive. So this sort of fills the gaps to we have nothing, and then we have the super superior hotel concierge style, and it's something let's say within the middle.
So our idea is actually to price it there between like super luxury Park Lane and regular apartments. So you pay not that much of a premium, and you still get this hotel vibe and hotel amenities. So this is where we're aiming for, and this is where we will be.
Cool.
But we won't compete with Park Lane. Like, people who rent in Park Lane won't think, I moved there because it's cheaper. It's you know, it's not there.
To be honest, I would rather live in the SL location rather than super amenities of Park Lane. But that's me. Let's say.
It's good to know.
I'm a location focused person. I got that, let's say, mentality from London. It was always location. I experienced it, and
for me also. I mean, I would love to be in a good location, like the one I'm living now. Rather than being somewhere outside the city. And
even if it's more luxury, even if it's more amenities. But let's say that's me. I know other people that prefer this kind. Me, it's location. Even if it's a smaller flat, less amenities, less luxury, I would still go for the location.
Yeah, it's a matter of personal preference.
Exactly.
Know? And as for today in Limassol, you don't get to choose. You know, you just grab what is available.
Yeah, indeed.
That's the
you don't have a lot of options. Yes.
You would love to choose, but you just don't get.
Great.
So the first option is to live in Limassol.
You want to live in Limassol, and then like you sort of, okay, where can I live in Limassol? You know? And then you kind of search through your options. So it's very different between like talking about, okay, conceptually what the market is and what we can do, to actually coming to the market. Okay, what can I afford, and what can I do here on the end user side. So let's not forget about that.
Great.
So Nikita, was our pleasure that we had here and speak about real estate and everything that your company does. Themis?
Me now, I'm just seeking the new project that I'm building. You lost my attention, you lost my focus.
Okay.
But overall, I'm happy that I got to participate here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. And yeah, real estate is it's a very interesting field for also people who look to buy or rent for personal use and for investment angle as well. And I think I've learned a lot that I didn't know.
Me also.
Yeah. And yeah,
We'll see you again, definitely. I mean,
Thank you very much. It was a big pleasure. Actually, it's very nice. I would love to do it again.
great.
Take maybe a deeper topics and talk to you.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll dive into real numbers and see, because I wanna one last note that they are so data driven that even they know the data between different neighborhoods in
I
Limassol.
would love to see that numbers.
So we
Yeah.
discuss
It's
cities.
expensive to see those numbers.
We discuss cities. They discuss by street,
Okay.
by postcode. So this is I'm telling you, they're miles ahead, and
Yeah, he's so excited with your company.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I am. We also didn't talk about property management, all this part. So yeah, we can keep it for the next podcast.
great.
Yes,
Sounds
yes.
good. Unless you wanna add something at this point.
I think we're good. We covered like the big part, then we
Yeah.
can next time dive into the details of everything.
So this is a pass for round 2.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I would love to. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you,
very much.
Nikita.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.